The Los Angeles Rams risked it all for a championship and won, but now they suck. The Rams won the Super Bowl 2 seasons ago. It was literally the 2022 Super Bowl, yet the Rams are now one of the worst teams in the league. The Rams went 5-12 last season, and a lot of that had to do with injuries to Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. Still though, they were really bad, and they're probably going to be really bad again. Now, it's not like they don't have any players on the team. Los Angeles essentially has 3 stars on the roster: Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford, and Cooper Kupp. That's 3 older dudes who all have some health questions. Kupp suffered a high ankle sprain that needed surgery in week 10, and he ended up missing the rest of the season. But he was still really good when he was on the field. He had 800 yards in just 9 games. But that 2021 Super Bowl season is when Cooper Kupp really separated himself from the pack. He led the league in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. He quite literally did it all for the Rams. And now we have to wonder if we'll ever see him at that level again. Even now, we don't even know when we'll see him this season because he suffered a hamstring injury and is now day-to-day. Then there's Matthew Stafford, who is a huge liability. He was dealing with an elbow injury after the Super Bowl and ended up having a procedure done for it, but he certainly didn't look like his old self in 2022. And to make matters worse, he ended up suffering a spinal cord contusion that ended his season. In 9 games, he had 2,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. It was a pretty ugly year. The health of both Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford is seriously up in the air, and to make matters even worse, both got contract extensions ahead of last season too. The Rams are really just in a mess of a situation, and because of that, I wouldn't really be too shocked if Aaron Donald's name starts getting thrown out around the trade deadline too. If LA is as bad as I think they'll be, it could make a lot of sense for him to be shipped off. But even he has injury questions. He only played in 11 games in 2022 and had 49 tackles and 5 sacks before he suffered an ankle sprain. The Rams' stars are hurt, and they're inevitably getting older. Yeah, they're still big names, but the rest of the team around them is super young and mostly unknown. The Rams have the second youngest team in football at an average age of 25.7. The only team younger than them is the Colts at 25.5. Yeah, they literally don't even have a player over 30 on their roster, which seems nearly impossible. The Rams also just had an insane 14 rookies make the 53-man roster. We're looking at a full rebuild here, and the roster shows it. Obviously, Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp are still starters on the offense, but there really is a lack of talent behind them. But there are some familiar names too, like Cam Akers. He actually had 800 yards and 9 touchdowns last season. Remember, he missed most of the 2021 season with the torn Achilles, but he played pretty solid in 2022. Kyren Williams should get some carries behind him after he had less than 200 yards as a rookie. Then behind Kupp is Van Jefferson, who's entering his 4th year in the pros, and he's pretty solid. Then Tutu Atwell, who only has 18 career receptions, is the expected 3. And there's also Puka Nacua, who's a 5th-round rookie out of BYU. At tight end, Tyler Higbee is back. He's had 4 straight 500-yard seasons, so he's pretty solid, but the offensive line isn't exactly inspiring, which is crazy because the Rams had a good line not really that long ago, but since it's completely fallen apart. Rob was really the only consistent guy last year. Joe Noteboom missed some time due to injury, and now he's gonna have to really prove himself this season. Brian Allen is at center, and Tremaine Ankrum is at right guard. Neither are really great options. That leaves 2nd-round rookie Steve Avila out of TCU to start at left guard. Now, as you can tell, the Rams' offense really isn't that great, but the defense is somehow even worse. Aaron Donald is back, yes, but the rest of the D is pretty rough. Jonah Williams is at the other defensive spot, and he just has a half sack in his 2-year career. Then there's Bobby Brown at nose tackle, and he has 9 tackles over 2 seasons. But there's a pretty good chance that you've never heard of those guys, and that's pretty much the theme for the rest of the defense too. The Rams linebacker core is pretty unexperienced and not really that pretty. 3 of 4 guys are heading into their 3rd year in the pros, and 2 of them were undrafted: Michael Hoyt and Christian Roseboom. Ernest Jones was a 2021 3rd-rounder, and then 3rd-round rookie Byron Young will start too. The secondary is also rough. LA has a 6th-round rookie, Trey Tomlinson, slated to start, and opposite of him should be Kobe Durant, a 2022 4th-rounder. At safety, the Rams have Jordan Fuller, who had been solid, but just spent a lot of last season on injured reserve. reserve. Finally, Russ Yeast, a 2022 7th rounder, will start at the other safety spot. The Rams on paper are really bad. There's really no doubt about that. But they really did it to themselves. And you could even argue that it was even worth it because they won a ring. Los Angeles has been incredibly bold since hiring Sean McVay. McVay has literally never selected in the first round. They traded away every single one. Before he even got to LA, the Rams had traded away their 2017 first and a package to move up and draft Jared Goff first overall. Then the following season, the Rams traded away their 2018 first for Brandon Cooks. The Rams traded down at the 2019 draft and then gave up both their 2020 and 2021 first to get Jalen Ramsey. Yeah, those are a lot of picks just right there. And to make matters even worse, none of those guys are even on the roster anymore. Now, the last trade was for Matthew Stafford. The Rams gave up their 2022 and 2023 first to get him. So finally in 2024, we may actually see the Rams use a first round pick. And it'll probably be a high one because it does look like they're gonna suck pretty bad. It's also very possible that LA could go quarterback and try to really kickstart this rebuild. That's one of the biggest issues with the Rams' recent approach, is that not only did they trade away all their picks, but trading for an aging Matthew Stafford wasn't gonna make sense for the long term. Again though, it doesn't really matter because they did end up winning a ring. But let's not act like the Rams didn't know what they were getting themselves into here. What's crazy is that I didn't even mention that last year, the Rams reportedly offered 2 first-round picks to the Panthers for Brian Burns. There's no way he alone turns their season around. If that trade goes through, then suddenly the Rams are out 2 more first-round picks. I don't know that I've ever seen a team with less of an interest in first-round picks than the Rams. The draft is one of the most common ways for a team to rebuild and improve, and LA just doesn't seem to care too much about all that. They seem to like doing things their own way, and for them, even the salary cap wasn't real. And now they're paying the price. The Rams have paid a lot of guys some bad contracts over the years, and because of that, they've taken some of the biggest and most outrageous dead cap hits in NFL history. Just in that Matthew Stafford trade, Jared Goff was a $22.2 million dead cap hit. That beat what was the largest dead cap hit in NFL history, $21.8 million, which was Brandon Cooks the season before. Add in Todd Gurley's $20.15 million dead cap, and the Rams have had a hell of a time with dead cap hits. Not to mention that none of those dudes were even on the 2021 Super Bowl team. Fast forward to this season, and the Rams have over $70 million in dead cap. The only team with more is the Buccaneers. Allen Robinson was a supposed big-time signing last offseason, but after he was traded to the Steelers, he's now a $21.45 million dead cap hit. Then the Rams also traded away Jalen Ramsey, who will be a $19.6 million dead cap hit this season, and of course, LA released both Leonard Floyd and Bobby Wagner too. Floyd alone is a $19 million dead cap hit, and of course, the Rams released Wagner just for him to go back to the division rival Seahawks. The NFC West is very split in half. The 49ers and Seahawks are definitely 2 teams that could be playing deep into January. Meanwhile, the Cardinals and Rams could both be looking at quarterback in the top of the 2024 NFL draft. LA should be able to save some face though, because it's just so difficult to imagine any team being worse than the Cardinals this season. But I could definitely see the Rams give them a run for their money. Sean McVay and Les Snead need to tear it all down and restart, really like it seems like the Cardinals are doing now. That probably means trading away Aaron Donald at the deadline and starting to look at a future past Matthew Stafford. The Rams had a historically bad Super Bowl hangover last year. Check out this video we did on it if you haven't already to really understand just how ugly it was, but it showed that it was really time to rebuild. The Rams risked everything and went all in on winning a Super Bowl, and it worked. Nobody can ever take that ring away from them, but now it's time to rebuild because the core that they have right now isn't ever going to make it back to the big game.